Before we get into trivia, it's time to throw it over to Mikey P with your Rangers Ed 150, the fastest 150 seconds in the National Hockey Podcast
Ladies and
League.
gentlemen, welcome back to the Rangers Ed 150. Now that we got some games under our belt post All-Star break, it's time to have a look around the league and see where the standings are shaking out as the trade deadline approaches. Out west in the Pacific Division, Vegas has crept back up into that number one spot and are 3-0 after returning from the All-Star break. Prior to the break, Vegas was riding a sinking ship, but they finally got some momentum going here now, and with Edmonton, the only team playing like they deserve to be in that number one spot, Vegas should be all set for the time being until some of their divisional opponents step up. Speaking of, the other two main contenders in this division right now are the Kings and the Kraken in those 2 and 3 spots. Both have been exceptionally mediocre of late, with the Kings 2-1 through their last 3 and the Kraken 1-4 since we last talked on Tuesday. Side note here, Jacob Chychrun has been scratched from the Coyotes lineup for the better part of a week in anticipation of a trade deadline deal, and right now the LA Kings are your number one contender, so watch out for a potential move there. In the Central Division, no change here, with Dallas, Winnipeg, Minnesota, and Colorado occupying the 1 through 4 spots, respectively. Dallas had a big divisional win against Minnesota last Wednesday, but since has dropped games to the Lightning and to Boston. While Winnipeg has only played 2 games since the break and has won both, Colorado has dropped 2 to Tampa in the last week, putting them at 2-2 since last Tuesday. Finally, Minnesota has had a tough run through their last 10 at 3-6-1, and they are also 1-4 since the All-Star break. The Wild have had 2 tough games against Colorado and Dallas to finish out this week, so if they're going to right the ship, they're going to have to do it against some pretty stiff competition. Right now in this division, Colorado is sneaking up through the standings. They're currently 1 point out of third place over the Wild with 2 games in hand, so look out for the Avs to move into the top 3 in the coming couple weeks. Back east in the Atlantic Division, the first place Bruins dropped a close one to Washington in their first game back from the break on Saturday after having a week off after the All-Star weekend. But they were able to take out Dallas 3-2 in overtime on Tuesday night to right the ship there. The Leafs and Bolts are still in the 2 and 3 spots, followed by Florida and Buffalo in the 4 and 5. The wild card race between Florida, Buffalo, Washington, and Pittsburgh has heated up significantly, with Florida finally starting to play like the elite team that they are on paper. They had a big win against Boston before the break and then smoked the Bolts 7-1 immediately post All-Star break, while the Sabres are 0-3 since All-Star weekend without Tage Thompson in the lineup. But they do have Anaheim on the schedule for tonight, so they shouldn't have too much trouble righting the ship there. Finally, in the Metro Division, the top 3 teams have remained the same in the Canes, Devils, and Rangers. These 3 have separated themselves from the wild card pack a bit, with the Rangers up 8 points on the 4th place Capitals, who had a big win against Boston on Saturday night. Pittsburgh stumbled a bit heading into the break, but since All-Star weekend, they're 4-1, while the Islanders haven't been overly exceptional since the Horvat deal and the All-Star break, posting a 2-3 record with losses to 3 of the league's worst teams in the Sharks, Canadiens, and Senators, which is not a good look for the team that's looking to sneak into the playoffs. Finally, the Caps leapfrogged Pittsburgh in the wildcard standings on the heels of a big win against Boston on Saturday, as we said, but have since dropped games to the Sharks and the Canes, so the mediocrity continues in the Metro Division. Got some exciting hockey coming up this week, so stay tuned for more updates next week. This has been your 150.